Hello, my name is Ken Schwartz of Precise Sharpening, and today what I'm going to do is to be introducing yet another 1000 grit stone from the Nubatama series. However, this is the Bamboo Nubatama 1000 grit stone. So this stone will be very reminiscent of the 320 grit and the 600 grit white stones in the series, and so I expect a somewhat similar performance, but a bit finer grit, obviously, 1000 grit. And we'll see an upcoming stone, a 1500 grit, also a very similar formulation. So let's start off with the porosity test. Pretty similar. It absorbs rather quickly. This should take just a brief soaking, so let's see. Okay, it goes in moderately quick. Alright, so let it soak for a second or two, minute or two, and I'm going to be doing two fairly different knives on this as a demonstration. This first one is a Blazen knife. This is a powdered steel formulation. So I expect it to react very differently than this other knife. This is a Hankotsu shape as opposed to the petty shape. It's a heavier blade. It's a single bevel, but single in the sense that it's flat over here rather than concave, and it's grounded at a fairly obtuse angle along this edge. It's used for butchery work, for getting into joints, and for heavy dissection, for taking meat off of a lamb bone, for instance, off of a leg femur. So anyhow, let's see how we're doing here. Alright, it looks like it's soaking in pretty well. So I think we can probably go to just spraying it with water periodically. And so what we're going to do on this is we're going to first find the angle. The angle should be right about there. And we're going to put a 1000 grit edge on the stone, on this knife. Okay. So it's holding its water pretty well. Fairly hard stone, generates swarf pretty quickly. Very good feedback on the stone. And again, I follow the curve of the blade. It curves upward, so I need to bring it in this general motion, but less pronounced. So that's the angle, and we'll continue doing this for just a little bit. Okay, I want to check something. Okay, so the surface refines itself very quickly from the initial grind marks of milling the stone, or shaping the stone, into a very nice, smooth surface. This stone is very reminiscent of a Chocera. I find it actually quite similar in style, in terms of it having that sort of creamy feedback type feel. Does seem to hold its shape very well. Let's increase the pressure just a little bit, see how that feels. I can hear and feel the edge refining itself a little bit. Add just a little more water, so it's not a particularly thirsty stone. So I would rate this stone as a splash and go. I mean, it's really not requiring much water whatsoever. Okay, I have a burr, and so to deal with this type of knife, it is a flat surface, but unlike a traditional flat surface like this, where it's actually concave, here it's flat. So you don't want to, almost like a serrated knife, you don't want to scratch up the whole surface or change it. So what you'll do is you put it flat on the stone, but then tilt it up in this direction just a hair, just to get the back surface off, so you're only getting the edge. And what we'll do is we'll go across fairly gently for a few strokes, deburr, and you can see a few small deburring specks in there, and rinse them off so as not to contaminate the mix. And we'll do a few strokes to refine the back edge now. Again, just a fraction off the back. If you go with a much more acute angle on the back, you essentially double the bevel angle and make the edge much less acute and reduce the cutting efficiency. But this back bevel, slight back bevel, adds a little bit of strength and, again, deburrs. Take a stroke or two on the front. And there we have it. Okay, so we have a nice heavy edge. Again, this is not a delicate edge like you would have with a sushi knife, but something more for heavier work. And it cuts cleanly. Good solid edge. Okay, so let's go on to this knife now. This is going to be a much more delicate knife. Because it's a powdered steel, we can go with a fairly acute angle. Let's wet this a bit. And we'll go with a little more of acute. Okay, so the angle on this right now, right about here, but we're going to go a little more acute, so maybe about here. Again, this is a powdered steel knife as opposed to a carbon steel, so you're going to have some vanadium carbide in here and other very hard carbides mixed in with the steel, but because it's a powdered steel, the size of the carbides tends to be much smaller than the non-powdered steels. You might compare and contrast the CPM 154 with the regular 154 variety of steel as a comparison. Okay, so let's see how this looks. All right, very uniform, very smooth, good feedback. Okay, we're letting the stone dry just a little bit. Now again, when you dry the stone, you tend to have a bit more wear, so as a stone is drier, you see a more concentrated slurry. These things are something that are important to note when you're watching somebody sharpen. Okay, we have actually a fairly large burr here. Want to get rid of that. That's actually very fast to have generated a burr that quickly. Just talk a little bit of a sort of wire type edge off of that. Let's do the back a bit. And so what I can say is that this stone cuts through powdered metal steels very nicely. Okay, so as the stone is used a little, the surface is smoothed out a bit, again from the initial grinding of the stone. We have a very nice, consistent feel. If you like Choceras, you're going to love this. All right. Okay, so as I finish up on this, I'm going to lighten my pressure just a bit. And the reason I'm lightening my pressure is because since the stone cuts so fast, I want to reduce the rate of burr formation to get a more precise edge where the two sides just sort of kiss and touch rather than just generating any extra and unneeded burr. Very nice. Very quick, very nice stone to work with. I think this is a stone that I can't see too many reasons not to include in your sharpening armamentarium. Okay, so all right, for a coarse cut, works very well, very clean. For slice cutting, very clean. Very nice. Again, this stone is available. It's the 1000 Grit Bamboo Nubatama stone, available at Chef Knives to Go. Please take a look in Ken's corner. You'll see a number of other stones, and I look forward to hearing your comments about this stone. Thank you for your time.